Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.
They can't keep a good man down. Bop, 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 bop. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies 3, England 2. They want to see me smile. Yes, we're here. We're here, people. We're here. The rum is ready. Dino saying Sizzler's lawyers are calling. I forgot, True. How long can we play a music before they lock you off? Santoki,
Boy.
Cricket Connoisseur, Aaron in the house. What a series. What a series. And Santoki, I'm going to come to you first because you and I have often said that bilateral series, particularly T20s, are basically just a bunch of friendlies, have no meaning. You can dip in and out of them. There's no real consequence. Aaron was with us prior to the series. We kind of did the whole review thing. We talked about how there were things England were looking for, West Indies were looking for. But chaps, what a series. I mean, that had everything. That series kind of had everything. And by the end, I felt like everyone was gripped, almost like it was some kind of World Cup final or something. Santoki, over to you first. What's your immediate kind of emotions and feelings about that series?
I mean, it's easy to say bilateral series don't mean much when we're losing, but yeah, well, as you said, Mash, for a bilateral series, this had everything. I mean, boy, you can't really, so many storylines, so much narrative on and off the field. West Indies ultimately prevailing 3-2, a classic. And I think the fact that nobody won 2 games in a row, every match was sort of a different team winning, was just absolutely great. And yeah, Cricket Connoisseurs on. I know you're going to be slightly depressed about that loss, but you did predict it, so you've got no one to blame but yourself for that.
Hang on.
Aaron,
Hang on a second, Santoki. First of all, gents, thank you very much for having me back on. It's an absolute pleasure. And also, big up to all the West Indies fans. You know, you've had it difficult at times in the past few years. I love seeing you all happy, so congratulations to the men in maroon, thoroughly deserving winners off of the back of that performance yesterday. And we'll get into that in more detail as the podcast goes on. I have absolutely no doubt about that. I'm more than prepared. I wasn't prepared for the rendition of Sizzler at the start there, Mash. That was something a bit different. Never had that on a podcast.
Listen, everyone's just said we're going to get a copyright strike for that, so I need to work out how to edit that without that happening. But
listen, Mashal versus Sizzler's going to court 2023.
That's the real off-field beef that we should be looking at. Mash versus Sizzler's lawyers. But no, in terms of the series prediction, just to give some context for that, for those who didn't listen to the preview show, that was me, right? In 2021, I didn't predict a single series correctly. This is coming from someone who thought England could win the Ashes, right? My predictions have been absolutely terrible recently. I thought, you know what? Let's try and get one back on the cricketing gods. Now, let's play some reverse psychology. Let's say 3-2 to the West Indies. And it actually happened. So who knows? 2022, my luck might have reversed. But as I said, a great series. The definition of a blockbuster. And Mash, I think you really did summarise that perfectly at the start, where it had that almost World Cup feel. Those final few overs, the West Indies fans in attendance at the Kensington Oval were absolutely electric. That's one of the things I love about the Caribbean region. It's the vibrancy, it's the atmosphere, it's the enthusiasm for the game. And it kind of built up as the series went along. It went from a series which felt almost like a little bit of a friendly. And by the end of it, it was like an almost tournament level game. So great series. Absolutely loved it. Yes, I would prefer England to have come out on top. But my goodness, it was excellent cricket. Champagne cricket, shall we say.
Do you know what we have to say as well? I think as much as Santoki and I cussed out / joked about it, it possibly wouldn't have had that feel without the thousands of England fans there as well. Because at the end of the day, as much as it's a bit embarrassing to see 75% England fan, 25% West Indian fans, it all added to the atmosphere. And as you say, Aaron, by the end, I mean, when the players were doing their lap of honour, the West Indian fans were there and they were loud and they were proud. And if anything, not that we were there, but you kind of got the sense as well that the England fans were like, you know what, well played. Well played. That was actually just a really good series of cricket to watch. So I think the all-round atmosphere as well, particularly Santoki, because in the Caribbean, we've had basically no fans since 2020. All we've had is Jamaican groundsmen to build an atmosphere. So that felt like the first return of proper cricket in the Caribbean since the pandemic came.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. It did feel back. It felt like a throwback, I guess, seeing all those fans. And we've always said that England is the biggest tour for us, for West Indies. So it kind of lived up to that. But I think, Mash, it's only right we start with sort of the off-field context of the series. I mean, it kind of, in the end, it kind of added to the magnitude of it all for this side, for Pollard's side, coming under a lot of pressure, questions about his captaincy, voice notes going around talking about disharmony within the team. It felt like vindication for Pollard's side to win, and you felt that they were united by this kind of these forces going against them. So it's only right we start, Mash, with the whole voice note saga.
Boy, where do we really begin? There's a lot of people in this chat, and people I know haven't put much comments up yet, but we're reading them, we're seeing them. Where do we begin with this? Let me try and give the background and context first, because I'm not sure how many people in the chat are au fait with what exactly went down. After game 3, and I think we have to remember, Santoki and Aaron, that the context, like the situation of the series was we'd just seen Rovman Powell almost essentially play a coming-of-age innings. Magnificent century, taking his T10 form, T20 form into the third game. Probably his best innings for the West Indies. And in true West Indian style, we didn't even get 2 hours to celebrate it before there was a cuss out to focus on instead. So Rodman's innings just disappeared under the ether of the cuss out. Now, for those who are wondering what's happened and where this has all come from, I'm going to give what I know without leaving myself open to libel or anything like that. I can't remember if it was the day of the match or if it was the next day. I received a voice note. You know what? I'm airing it all. I received a voice note with Andrew Mason saying something to the effect of, for those who know what Andrew Mason's like, ladies and gentlemen, there is an exclusive in the Caribbean. That's my Andrew Mason thing. It is believed, or it is alleged, that Dean Smith has been the subject of victimization from the coach and the captain. Stay tuned for more. That's my Andrew Mason. Impression there. Big idiot. Anyways, so Mason did all that, and next thing I know, I'm seeing messages from Sanasi and Cameron saying Weeper need to investigate. What are Weeper gonna do? They need to make sure they go to Cricket West Indies because there's bullying and there's victimization. Then I was told that, should I even call the name? Then I was told that certain individuals within Weeper had been leaking information to Mason, Sportsmax, whoever. I'm not going to call the name, but you can. Those of you who know Weeper should be able to work out yourself that certain individuals within Weeper were leaking to them saying Smith is being bullied and so on and so forth. What's important to point out? I should point out what they were saying. They were saying that Smith was being bullied, Santoki and Aaron, because people in the changing room were asking him for his complimentary tickets for the match, right? So that was reason number one. And then reason number two was that people in the changing room were saying to him, why don't you change your agent? And then they were linking that to why he didn't then play in the third match, because he was being bullied. So from there, a whole big bag of noise breaks out. And what I just want to say, Santoki, before I hand over to you to come in, is that through this whole thing, old Dean Smith hasn't spoken. He hasn't said one word. Yet all these people are speaking for him. And you know what? We haven't seen, Santoki, one shred of evidence. I'm not saying it's false. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying we haven't seen one shred of evidence. But in classic West Indian way, we've all done jury, judge, executioner, decided that Pollard and Simmons are bullies, and Smith is the is a victim of bullying and is being victimized. Weeper called a meeting. Cricket West Indies basically said there's a series going on. How can we have a meeting? There's a series going on. Hold that till after the series is over. Santoki, what do you make of it all?
Boy, well, I think firstly, I guess for people who don't really know Andrew Mason, it's very much, I don't know how you would call it, maybe clickbait journalism. So if you listen to his show, it's all about kind of getting scoops and headlines, whereas a lot of time there's no substance behind the story. So this would fall into the classic mold of being something like a clickbait news item, which didn't really seem to have any legitimate backing behind it. And also for those wondering, WIPO is the West Indies Players Association, which is like a players' union, which is meant to represent it all. But I think, as you said, Mash, Odie and Smith didn't come out and say anything. There's a lot of platforms, social media platforms, a lot of avenues where he could have come out and voiced his disgruntlement with Pollard if he felt like he was being mistreated. I think it was very telling in the last T20 last night, the fifth one, that we saw Akil Hussain celebrating by stirring the pot, which sort of alluded to everything going on. Ian Bishop finally came out and said he rubbished the rumours going on. He felt like he had enough with all the pressure building up. Kieron Pollard, obviously the famous singing in the post-match press conference. And then even today, we've had the likes of Fabian Allen, Nicholas Pooran, posting on social media about the hate they've been getting and how they've kind of had to rise above it. So you feel this team's been unified by that. And I just feel if there was any substance or legitimacy to the claims made by Andrew Mason, you wouldn't get that unity in this side. Their players would be divided and cussing each other out. So I just feel that something's been made. There's obviously a reason why someone or certain institutions want to divide this team, but they've sort of risen above it. And it looks like there's no legitimacy behind it because Odie and Smith hasn't said anything, which is the main point we made. So, I mean, it's not really surprising with West Indies cricket. We've seen it happen before. It's just a shame that these problems continue to happen and will always hinder the development and progress the side can make.
Before I come to you, Aaron, because I want to ask you something, just a couple of comments. So Dino says, Hossein celebrations are linked to FIFA, but also applicable to the situation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's moving smart. Contact says, what did Bishop say? Was I on air? Was I listening when Bishop was on? Do you know what he actually said, his exact words, Santoki?
Yeah, he said, I'm rubbishing the rumours going around at the moment regarding Odie and Smith. He didn't go too much into it. I guess, obviously, you can't on a major platform, but that essentially, from Ian Bishop as well, that essentially cut any sort of suspicions around the whole saga.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I have my own suspicions. I think it's, at the end of the day, it's come from somewhere. Nobody's mentioned who Odie Smith's agent is. If I was a betting man about this situation, I would say, don't be surprised if Odin's agent, whoever that is, has played a role in this in some shape or form. If I'm a player and people are speaking to me about changing agents and my agent finds out, yeah, I might kick up a stink. But that name, whoever that is, hasn't been mentioned. I'm surprised that people haven't thought that person might be playing a role. I don't know, by the way. I'm just saying that if I had to bet, that's what I would say. But fundamentally, as I've kind of said, even if there are elements of truth to this, Weeper is the player's representative. And what I would say to Weeper is, what made them think that in the middle of the series, when Odin was still there and is still in the squad and might still be selected, what made them think as a players' union, yeah, now's the time to raise this when West Indies are winning 2-1. And that's why I don't buy that this was thinking about Odin's best interest, because you can't be a players' union and you're saying now's the time to really delve into this. You could have waited till Sunday, series over, and if you want to then do your thing. But in the middle of the series, and that's why I give so much props to Odin coming back for game 5. And okay, he got licks in his last over, but the first 3 overs, he bowled with pace. He bowled that hard ball, hard lengths. He actually, they nicked him off 2 times, got dropped, didn't appeal, whatever it might have been. Odin bowled with pace and heart in that last match. And you have to give him credit for being able to overcome the noise, people talking on his behalf, He doesn't say anything and then still comes out and bowls certainly 3 significant overs in restricting the English. But Aaron, I'm going to come to you because even though you've got you kind of got no horse in the race with this particular issue, I'm intrigued to know how it came across to an England fan just watching it and taking it in. And is that something you would expect to ever see in England cricket? I mean, you see a Stuart Broad cuss out when he's not in the team. I think that might be like the closest kind of equivalent. But what were your views from an England perspective?
I think it, to be honest, reflected quite poorly. As you said, I'd be absolutely shocked if the PCA, the Professional Cricketers Association, here in England and Wales, if they made a statement about a player during a series, which, let's be honest, at that moment, your team is 2-1 up. They're on the verge of potentially winning the series. If that came out in the English camp, I'd be absolutely livid because it's completely the wrong time. I mean, not to sound too cliche, but there is a time and a place. You know, you have to know when to release these things, and it's really, really poor communication. And just something which I'd say, and this doesn't just apply to the West Indies, this applies to lots of people at the top in world cricket right now. Some people out there need to learn to put their self-interest to one side and think of the greater good, because we see this far too much in cricket nowadays, people serving themselves and not the country or the team as a whole. They're all out to get more power. And I just feel like at this moment in time, you could not have picked a worse time. 2-1 against the number 1 ranked side in the world. Why even try and spread that chaos amongst the group? So tremendously disappointed, to be honest. I don't know if there is any validity to it, of course, because no one knows that. The only people who would know that are the people involved. But yeah, disappointed. And to be honest, a little bit farcical from an English perspective.
Yeah, well put, Aaron. I think it's always interesting to get I use the word in the best way, at an outsider's perspective, because
a neutral perspective.
Neutral. That's the best one. A neutral perspective, because we're in the mix of it, just cussing. But you're a neutral, just looking on, going, what on earth? And this is why I think people sometimes kind of scratch their head about West Indies cricket, because we love to score own goals. Basically, there's too much ego. There's too much ego in West Indies cricket, which definitely plays a role in halting our progress. And Santoki, before we move on and try and dissect the series, because Santoki, the uncles weren't happy. The uncles weren't happy. A lot of the uncles probably wanted us to lose because it would have suited an agenda. But I mean, I've been going around the forums today trying to gauge what's going on. I don't think the uncles were happy with how Pollard addressed the situation by singing.
Just to clarify, when we say uncles, for those not familiar, we don't mean our legitimate blood uncles. It's not me and my actual uncles, but uncles we refer to sort of middle-aged Caribbean men who are sort of on forums prevalent around the internet with a very negative mindset. And I don't really know what their ultimate objective is, what they want to see from this team. I can only imagine the hate for Pollard is because he's sort of never played red ball cricket. He's sort of seen as a mercenary. That's the only reason I can think why they dislike Pollard. But it seems like the ultimate objective is to use the power of Facebook forums to remove Pollard as captain at the moment. So West Indies losing we would have seen an uncle cuss out for the next 7 days relentlessly. So just for that, I'm so glad West Indies managed to win the series. But there might be some uncles listening to this podcast. So I don't know if we're going to get any cusses in the comments. But yeah.
Could I just hop in? You mentioned about that. I'm guessing you saw it the other day on Sportsmax. The fella who said there's no need for cricket in the Caribbean. Did you see the clip of that?
Yeah. Might as well just plant some ganja and what was it? Cassava. But the thing is, I mean this genuinely, Santoki, I still want you to answer. And there will be some uncles. In fact, speaking of uncles, I was speaking to my dad earlier on. But there will be some uncles in the chat right now, and I mean this genuinely, because Santoki, I wouldn't say that you and I are. I think people think we are, but I wouldn't say we're Pollard apologists.
No.
I would just say that if there's things to cuss, we'll cuss. If there's things to praise, we'll praise. But I just think the balance is skewered when it comes to looking at Kieran Pollard. And I keep saying it on our Twitter handle, Sandogan. I'd love to know what your genuine views are, and yours as well, Aaron. Why can't people stand him? Like, I don't.
I'm gonna say there was a concerted effort from the previous administration to sort of blemish Pollard in terms of he didn't sign West Indies contracts. He obviously played as much franchise cricket as he could. He never pursued a red ball career, so his career was kind of blemished by the administration. And when you've had years and years of that sort of propaganda, it's hard for fans to kind of see past that. So for me, I think there's a long-standing issue with Pollard. Just this idea that he encapsulates being a mercenary, which kind of contradicts it at the moment, because he's obviously signed a West Indies contract and he's signed up as captain. So he's not a mercenary by that definition. But I just feel this long-standing campaign against him by the previous administration has sort of led to this kind of dislike of him, because based on talent and playing merit, you wouldn't imagine he would have this amount of dislike from fans.
This is a good point. And Aaron, I'm going to ask you to come in. Mario says it's because he's confident and carries himself. And that's what I think. So the only person I can relate Pollard to is Gale. People hate Gale the same way because Gale thinks he's brilliant. And, well, Gale backed it up. And Pollard also is a super confident character. He never doubts his ability. Even if he's in a slump, he's not doubting his ability. And I don't know if just our Caribbean mentality is you've got to cut a man down to size if he's bossy. You're not allowed to be bossy with it in the Caribbean. And this is before we bring in the insularity and the fact that he's a Trini, and maybe people have a problem with that and so on and so forth. Because a lot of people can't get past Simmons being a Trini, Pollard being a Trini. I think that is an issue for some people as well, because there's a cuss out with Bravo. And when you get to the Bravo cuss out, the first thing people jump to is he's a Trini. A couple of people said the other day Bravo's only in the team because he's a Trini. Like, this is a West Indies mentality. But Aaron, again, coming in with the neutral viewpoint.
Well, first and foremost, I mean, that's just something which needs to go from the region. Because, again, it's incredibly cliche, but united we stand, divided we fall. Like, the fact is, when you're out there and you're in these major tournaments, the only people that those West Indies guys have got is you as the fans. Whether you're from Trinidad, whether you're from Jamaica, Barbados, Grenada, Antigua, wherever. That just needs to go. Support the team. Like, it's as simple as that. Can you imagine that here in England? You know, if, for example, Moeen Ali's playing. Moeen Ali's a skipper and he plays for Worcestershire, and all of a sudden I'm saying, oh, we shouldn't be playing for England, and having a go at him. That needs to go. That mentality needs to be put to one side. Again, think of the greater good of the team and these players. With regards to Kieran Pollard, he's an interesting character. I agree with his swagger, his confidence. It almost comes across at times as a little bit egotistical, I think, to people who don't like him. And I think with his personality, with someone like Kieran Pollard, you either love him or you hate him. There isn't really a middle ground because of the way in which he carries himself. I think he's a very good captain. I think that he's a good leader of men. He's someone who, when the chips are down, you can look at, and you're confident that he's going to steer the ship in the right direction. The problem with him, though, at times, and I will say this, he does get a little bit too confrontational. I think back to the Sri Lanka series, for example, the way in which he conducted himself at times in that was not what I expect from an international captain. I think that's something which could be worked on at times, but you can't deny he's an excellent leader of men, and that's what people should be focusing on. Look, at the end of the day, we had this conversation with regards to Virat Kohli as well. Virat Kohli, the numbers speak for themselves. People don't like his attitude, his mentality. If it works, it works. And that's what people should be focusing on. So I personally don't understand the whole hatred, I suppose you'd call it, of Kieran Pollard. Yes, he's polarising. Yes, he does things which people disagree with. But he's an excellent leader. And again, that should be the focal point heading into the next few series.
Listen, for all the West Indians who are with us today, whether you're in the UK, America, or back home in the Caribbean, listen, follow Aaron, you know. I hope obviously Aaron was on last time as well, but this is still an introduction to some of you as to who Aaron is. This guy talks facts, people. So make sure afterwards, if you're not already doing so, follow Aaron, the Cricket Connoisseur, the County Cricket Podcast. This guy's one for the future. Just like we said with Nikhil, Aaron's one for the future, people.
He's
So
killing
if you
it, by
don't
the
know
way.
him- Sorry?
Nash, I have to say, Nicola's absolutely crushing it. Big up to
Well,
Nicola. At the
listen.
Under-19 World Cup, he had an earthquake to deal with, right? and and he was brilliant. It was like he was in perfect conditions. So Nicola, he's great. Honestly, he's another one to watch out for. Very, very special heading into the future.
Big up Nikhil. But, big up yourself, Aaron, for real. But let's get into it. We've done a kind of a big kind of intro on Pollard and Smith, and it was important that we address that and the whole victimization stuff. I don't even know where we start with the series. I actually don't know where to begin. So I think the best way, rather than going game by game, let's do it this way. What went well for both sides? So us as West Indians, Santoki, what would reflecting back on the 5 games? What were our wins? What are we happy with? And obviously, Aaron, from an English point of view, you had your own kind of expectations and desires. What went well? And actually, we've dominated it with the West Indies so far. So let's actually start with England, because we do want the England perspective and view. Having looked back now, Aaron, it's only been 24 hours essentially to think about it. What have you been happy with? Who do you think has staked a claim to maybe push the established players? We have to be honest, Santoki. We have to say that, remember, Milan, Archer, Bairstow, who else am I missing? Wont, Butler. There were a lot of England players who walked straight into this side who weren't there. It was still a very strong England team, though. Let's not try and take it away and pretend it was some joke man team that turned up. But Aaron, that's enough waffle. What words? I forgot words. Aaron, what's the positives for you?
Well, first and foremost, you can only play what's in front of you. So fair play to the West Indies. I hope people don't, take that away from them. But with regards to the England team, I suppose the positives to me, as opposed to an entire team thing, because we expect certain things from England, and we already know the strengths, we already know the weaknesses. I'll get into the weaknesses in a lot more detail, to be honest. A positive for me was Reece Topley. Now, I really like Reece Topley. I think he's an excellent bowler, and he does offer something different because he's tall and he offers a left-arm seam angle. So for that reason, I was excited to see him in this series, and he performed very well. I know at times he was a little bit expensive, but I think back to the 19th over in that second T20I, that was match-winning. Considering how that final over went with Akil Hussain and Romario Shepherd, if he would have conceded 2 more runs, England would have lost the game. So Reece Topley, in my opinion, I don't think he's a starter by any means. I still think there are people above him in the pecking order, but he has definitely staked a claim ahead of this year's World Cup, and he's played in Australia. He's played for Melbourne, so that's another thing with regards to Topley. He is definitely someone to watch out for heading in to the rest of this year. And I suppose the other one would be Phil Salt. Now, I couldn't understand the logic behind Phil Salt's batting position. I made this very clear on Twitter, on the podcast, to put a few things up about it. Because he went from batting at 6. Bear in mind, Phil Salt is an opener and has excelled there. Sussex's leading run scorer in the 2021 T20 Blast has just moved to Lancashire. He was batting at 6 and he hit 57 from 24 balls. Now, if I saw that, and again, this is just my personal opinion, people might disagree, I would move him up the order. He's a top order batsman anyway. Tom Banton hasn't been in the greatest of forms domestically, and yet they persisted with him for basically the entire series. And instead of that, we went the opposite. We had an opener batting at number 7, and he wasn't even wearing the gloves. Sam Billings was wearing the gloves. Again, nothing against Sam Billings, but he must have been absolutely exhausted. He's just had this mammoth trek from Australia. He's gone from Sydney to Hobart to the Caribbean in the space of a week. And yet he's keeping in, 3 or 4 of the games? I couldn't quite understand that personally. But with Phil Salt, his performance in the, was it the second or the fourth? It was the second one, wasn't it? Second T20 or the third? No, it's the third. We lost it in the end. But the 57 from 24.
Yeah, of course he nearly chased it down, yeah.
Outstanding. So Phil Salt and Reece Topley for me, they were definitely the positives, and we'll get into the negatives in due course.
Well, only 2 positives?
This is the thing. I know that does sound harsh, but as I said beforehand, with England, the strengths, the power hitting.
Okay,
we have the ability to explode. I don't think England necessarily I don't think there's necessarily too many new positives. I was focusing more on the new positives.
Right, okay, yeah, that's fair enough, actually.
As opposed to underlying and existing ones, personally.
Yeah, okay, fair. Because that, I mean, I've seen obviously lots of people like Cosme saying Adil is incredible.
But we all know that. Adil Rashid, can I just say, I didn't big him up. I love Adil Rashid. Absolutely love him to pieces. What a bowler. And he loves facing the West Indies, doesn't he? So big up to Adil Rashid. Long may it continue. I absolutely love the guy. Has got all the variations in the world. Beautiful leg break. Beautifully flighted. Googly. Yeah, big up to Adil Rashid. And Moeen Ali, actually, with the ball. I should have said he bowled some very good off spin as well.
Before Santok and I get into West Indies, Aaron, quick one. But then you might say it's a, I don't know, maybe you're not saying it's a positive. Moeen as a captain.
It's an interesting one, because if you look at his captaincy record now, he's won 1 in 4. Now, in that 4th T20, I think he did very well in terms of the management of the bowlers. In that last T20, I'm going to be honest, there was one moment which I didn't quite like, and it was actually at the start, it was in the power play, because as we all know, it was Carl Mayer's opening. Left-hander, you have the matchup, and Moeen is very, very good against left-handers. I didn't understand why he didn't bowl the second over and why they gave it to Mahmood. And if you're going to give it to Mahmood, he has to have the 2nd and the 4th over. You can't then hide him away to the middle overs and the death, because his confidence will be shattered after going for a lot of runs. And instead of him bowling the 4th, he bowled the 2nd, went for a lot of runs, went for, I think, over 10 or 12 runs, I think it was. And then he was taken out the attack. This is already a guy who's a little bit shaken on confidence from going for 28 in the 2nd T20 and was dropped. So that was something I wasn't a massive fan of. But I must admit, with Moeen, he's got these flashes of brilliance. It's just about consistency. And maybe that's inexperience. 4 T20Is is nothing in comparison to Owen Morgan, for example. So it's something which he could learn. It's something which could come with time. But I think in this series, it's a little bit hit and miss for me personally at this moment in time.
Yeah, I'd go along with that. I was just intrigued to see where you stood in it from an England perspective. Santoki, the West Indies. Now, it's the easy thing to do, Santoki, is to say, well, we won 3-2, so there were loads and loads of positives. But let's try and focus on the genuine, undeniable positives. Right. You go first, Santoki.
Yeah, I think for me, the first one is it finally looks like we've got an opener for Evan Lewis in the form of Carl Mayers. I mentioned when we did our preview podcast that he deserves a chance in this series. I felt like with Shai Hope, there's no chance he's a long-term opener. He just struggles in the format as an opener. Brandon King showed glimpses, but you never felt completely comfortable with him. Like, you couldn't trust him to kind of take off. Even though he done well in Pakistan, you always got the feeling that maybe this wasn't the right format for him as an opener. So that was a bit shaky. But Carl Mayers how many did he play? 2 T20s? He just came straight off, everything coming off the bat, looked comfortable as an opener, and he seemed like he would work well with Evan Lewis in terms of trying to replace that Lendl Simmons-Evan Lewis partnership. So for me, that's one big takeaway, that we've finally got an opener who we can hopefully have long-term and heading into the World Cup to partner Evan Lewis, because that's been a major issue with us. We haven't been able to get off to fast starts as we traditionally have in the past 10 years in the Chris Gale era. So for me, Carl Mayer's emergence as a credible opener is a massive positive to take.
Just want to add to that Pooran's video that he posted today, he referred to Mayers as young Cramps. And for those who don't know, Cramps is Chris Gale's name. So it's interesting that the players are already likening him and his batting style to Crampy. Anyone else other than Mayers, or do you want me to throw one out there, Santoki?
Yeah, go for it, Mesh.
Let me throw an obvious one first. Rovman. Now, I feel like everyone's said it now, so it's not like I'm going to say anything significant in this point, but maybe Aaron will want to add some, because obviously Aaron watches all T20s and T10s under the sun, so Aaron can probably follow me here. But Rovman, I think I said something on Twitter similar to this. Rovman Powell, in many ways, you can tracking Rovman Powell's career, you could apply that to a lot of talented West Indian batsmen. Fits and starts, significant innings, tail away, few innings here and there, tail away, shows signs of ability, never really fulfills it. So for those who are long in the tooth West Indian fans, you may remember when we had to qualify for the 2019 World Cup. I think Rovman hit a century. I wonder if it was against Ireland. I think it was it Ireland? It was the one where I think it cracked the window. It was in the qualifiers. I can't remember which team we played. And Rovman hit a century. And at the time, that's back in 2018. And at the time, then it was like, right, Rovman's coming of age. This is it now. Tailed away. Earlier on in the year, Santoki, Rovman went to Bangladesh and was probably our most comfortable batsman in the ODI. You know that D team that went to in the ODI series?
Yeah.
He was probably the most comfortable batsman that played in that ODI series. And then we just never saw him again. Even though he was all right in the ODIs, we just never saw him again. Then most recently, and this is why I want Aaron to follow me, in the T10s, out of this world. For, is it Northern Warriors?
Yeah.
Out of this world. Lanka Premier League, I think he played a couple matches, out of this world. And the question mark everyone had always had about Rovman was he can't play spin. To the point where what I said on Twitter was Rovman is or was a walking wicket. Whenever it was a spin, he'd be like, well, Rovman's going to last about 2-3 balls. And when I saw him in Bangladesh actually rotate strike against the Bangladesh spin, I was like, hold on, okay. Rovman must be working on this. And I can't remember if it was Pollard, if it was Phil. It was Phil Simmons. In the Phil Simmons press conference after Rovman's century, Phil said that Rovman had shown the other players, some of the other players, what you need to do if you want to take international cricket seriously. And he said that Rovman had taken it upon himself to go and work on his game and actually listen to advice as to what he needs to get better at doing. And he says Rovman is now reaping the rewards of that. And I think we shouldn't just focus on how he's played spin, because it was also, we always knew he was good against pace. But even against pace in this series, I was seeing him come out with shots on the offside. Because Rovman's strong on the leg side. We know this. But there was shots he was doing on the offside. I was like, okay, didn't know that was in your locker. So I think I'd love to believe this is the evolution of Rovman Powell. I would love to believe that this is a Rovman Powell who now knows his true ability and knows his own game and feels comfortable in his own game. Because, and Santoki, this is a contentious one here, if Rovman Powell plays like that, there's no place for someone like Shafane Rutherford, because they're similar kind of, Powell getting into the team blocks out someone like a Rutherford getting into the team. So I see them as two kind of similar players. One's left-handed, obviously one's right-handed. Aaron, you've been watching Powell recently, no doubt, probably in T10s, T20s. What do you think about Rovman?
Been watching him for years, Masha. I'm a Jamaica fan, aren't I? In the CPL.
Of course, well. But he didn't have a good CPL, interestingly enough. But
he didn't. But I'm absolutely delighted for him. Again, I'm not going to, I don't want to jinx him and say this is the rebirth of Rovman Powell and we're going to see a golden age of his cricket. But I do just want to focus in on the spin, because that was always his Achilles heel. And one of the things which I noticed about his playing of spin, very rigid in terms of his foot movement. He wouldn't move his feet at all. It was like he was stuck in quick-drying cement. I watched in this series against the likes of Adil Rashid, Liam Livingstone, Moeen Ali, him moving his feet. And that is something I absolutely love. If you watch all of the best players of spin in world cricket, they all move their feet, both laterally and vertically. It's so important. It's the best way to combat top quality spin bowlers, creating those new angles of attack. And talking of the attack, I think something he's worked into his game is the paddle sweep. We saw this a few times in this series, and that is such a good shot to have at your disposal. It's something which Joe Root does for days, and he's very, very effective. The reason why that is so positive for Rovman, instead of getting stuck against spin, he's now rotating the strike, which is A, positive for him, and B, the more important one, arguably, it's keeping the score ticking along for the West Indies. And I don't just think it was Rovman in this series against spin. I think the entire West Indies side in this series, for all of the talk of they'll have 4-dot balls and try and hit 2 sixes, they actually did very well rotating the strike. They knew when the good balls were coming, and in past series, in past tournaments, we would have seen dot balls. And instead, those dot balls were converted into singles and the odd 2. So really impressed with Rodman, wishing him the very best of luck. Whether or not this is long-term, whether or not this is the evolution of Rodman, no one knows. Only time will tell. I sincerely hope that it is. But I think for the West Indies side as a whole, it's nothing but positive, and fingers crossed he can take this good form into the India series.
Yeah, most definitely, Aaron. And like I say, he's kind of made himself an automatic pick. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they configure the side in India. I don't think they can drop him necessarily. Santoki, we've said Mayers, we've said Powell. There's some obvious ones we still haven't said.
I mean, Holder, leading wicket taker. Although
hold on. Is this big Josh De Silva in the house? Josh, I reckon it probably is Josh. Josh, what are you saying? We'll bring you on the live. Don't even try it. I will bring you on the live. Gotta be the same. Yeah, big up, Josh.
hang on, Josh. I'm not having this.
We're saying clean sweep of England, Josh. Is that what you're saying?
3-0.
But yeah, Holder, go on, Santoki.
Holder would be an obvious choice. 15 wickets. Won us the game, the final game on Sunday. But then again, at the same time, a lot of it, like the 4 wickets in 4 balls, kind of inflated his wicket taking ability. I don't think it was a great series for Jason Holder. We saw him get smashed was it in the 4th T20? We saw him get smashed at the death. So there were positives in terms of him being able to take wickets, but I don't feel it was as good as the stats would seem to suggest initially.
Yeah, the thing with Holder is, and obviously, I'm surprised somebody hasn't come to cuss me, because obviously in the World Cup, I was like, I've got no problem with Holder not being in the 11, and I still stand by that. I'm never gonna try and say that I got that wrong. He should have been in the 15. I had no problem with him not being in the 11. My issue with not my issue. Jason was fantastic. At the end of the day, 15 wickets. You can't argue with that. I just wonder, though, with Jason, and this isn't actually a criticism. If anything, it's just a question mark. We still lack a death bowler, right? And okay, everyone's going to say he got 4 in 4, but England were trying to hit 6s to go for the win. So yes, it was 4 in 4, and I'm not denigrating the 4 in 4 in the slightest, but do you get what I mean? It's like I don't know. Yeah, it's in the record books, but it's not necessarily I bowled brilliantly to get 4 in 4, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
But what I would say, if we're going to use Holder, where's the best place to maximize him? He spoke at the end about how it was great to have the confidence of the management and the captain to bowl at the death, which suggests that he wants to do that. I'm not convinced that's the best time to bowl Jason, but in our side where we don't have anybody necessarily, I get it. I totally get it. And yesterday when I was watching live, I was like, who's going to bowl the death over? Is it going to be Romario or is it going to be Jason? And I think I was on Guerrilla Cricket at the time, and I said, you've got to give it to the most experienced player, which is Holder, even though Romario's the one who's used to doing it in terms of his skill set, Amazon Warriors, etc., etc. Aaron, I'll come back to you again. If you have Jason Holder in your T20 side, with the ball, because he's going to get a big IPL bag, that's a certainty. He's going to get one. How do you maximize him, and do you bowl him out before the death?
That's an excellent question. Well, no doubt he bowls in the power play, and I'll never ever forget the ball he bowled to Virat Kohli in the 2020 IPL Eliminator, which broke my heart, and I imagine millions of other hearts as well. He's a bona fide power play wicket taker. This is just my opinion, and Jason will probably disagree with this based off of that particular segment there. I would bowl him out before the death. I think the earlier you use Jason Holder, the better, right? So use him in the power play, maybe a couple in middle overs. However, with that being said, with someone like Jason Holder, if he wants to bowl at the death, would you not back him? Yeah, I certainly would. Yeah. He's one of the best all-rounders on the planet. I always say this, top 3, along with Ben Stokes and Ravindra Jadeja. They're my absolute top 3 favourites in the world right now. If he wants to bowl the death, I back Jason Holder to gather the necessary skill sets in order to execute that. And at times, To to utilise your terminology, Mash, he might get licks. Okay, he might go for quite a few at the death. That's death bowling. It's the nature of the beast. But when called upon, he had so much pressure on him yesterday, series on the line, and he delivered the goods. And that is exactly what Jason Holder gives you. So in terms of how I would use him, maybe it's actually a bit irrelevant. Maybe it's time to ask someone like Jason, an experienced member of this team, how should we use you best? And if he wants to be bowled at the death, back him unequivocally.
I can't argue with that. I actually can't. And then, like I say, we end with Holder as we started at the end of the day. 15 wickets. You cannot knock that. You cannot. It's fantastic. And it also speaks to, I think Jason has said this in a few interviews recently, it speaks to him slowly but surely becoming comfortable with the idea of just being a player, not being a captain anymore, being a player and maximizing however many years he's got left, just playing and enjoying his cricket. And again, for those who haven't seen, in his kind of dressing room speech, or what, I don't know if it was, in fact, it was this morning, I think we posted it, he talked about how this, the changing room camaraderie is really, really good. And I think it's when you watch clips of Jason in the change room, he still has a leadership role in that team. It doesn't actually matter that Jason's not the white ball captain or captain anymore, because people still look to him for leadership and inspiration. So I think sometimes people think, Caribbean Cricket Podcast doesn't back Jason Holder. No. We will criticize anybody where we feel there needs to be constructive criticism, but we recognize the importance of Jason Holder in any West Indies team and setup. I'm going to throw one out there, Santoki. I know we're still talking on strengths here. I thought Sheldon Cottrell was good. I thought Sheldon had his zip back. I thought Sheldon looked the fittest he's looked in a while for the West Indies. Sheldon at his best is essentially a guaranteed wicket taker in the power play. I'm not saying he struck every single time in the power play. Certainly in the first match, he showed it straight away. But in the other matches, he kept it tight in the power play. And actually, what was impressive for me with Sheldon, and I think yesterday's match encapsulated it, he looked good coming back later in the innings. And that's always been my critique about Sheldon, that he's good in the power play, but can he return and bowl as effectively? And actually, the winning... yes, we were favourites in the last 4 or 5 overs, whatever, of that match yesterday. But kind of like what Aaron said about Reece Topley's over being key when England won, I think, the second one. Sheldon only going for 7 in the 19th over yesterday is actually what won the match, because it meant that whoever bowled the power play only had to defend, had 21 runs to defend. But if Sheldon had taken some licks, I actually reckon England would have got over the line. So I saw some elements of Sheldon's coming back to the Cottrell who got the IPL bag, Santoki.
Yeah, I was literally going to say Cottrell bowled like a man who knows the IPL draft is coming in 2 weeks. Obviously, his car got dented in Jamaica by Odean Smith, so he needs to get that bag again to fix the car. But no, he played well. I wouldn't say it was fantastic, but we saw some of the old Sheldon back with that zip and that pace. So hopefully he can build on that in the India tour. So because he's certainly someone who we would need. And he's dropped off since he got an IPL deal, 2-3 years ago. Since then, he's sort of dropped off. So it'd be good if we could get him back, because we're severely lacking in the pace department in T20s.
Most definitely. And I'm going to let Aaron finish off with what I think is probably the last, kind of like similar to what Aaron did with England, the last definitive positive. There were obviously some other bits and pieces, but Aaron, I want you to talk on this guy from the England perspective. I want to know what an opposition fan thinks about Akeal Hussain.
Brilliant. What a prospect. I mean, there's not much more that I can say. I love his control, his discipline. I love the fact that he's so attacking. I also quite like his personality. Like when he brought out the FIFA celebration, even though that was against my side, I genuinely found that quite funny. And you just want someone like that in your team. He's so vibrant. He's so full of energy. I think he's a really, really good addition. And something which really impresses me about Akeal, because he is a relatively young spinner, okay, in terms of spinners' standards. We talk about spinners peaking at 28, 29, 30 years of age. He has a really good grasp over his strengths and weaknesses. He doesn't overpitch. He doesn't try and do anything ridiculously out of the ballpark. He just keeps it simple, and he takes wickets, and he backs himself, and he has a captain who backs him. I rate him very, very highly. I think he's fantastic. I love the guy. And again, long may it continue, because he has had an excellent 2021, and he started the new year just as he finished 2021. So, yeah, definitely someone to watch out for. I'm very, very excited to see his developments. And not just in terms of the bowling either, the batting. Let's not forgetting that second T20I. Boy's got long levers, shall we say.
Yeah, most definitely. And Santoki, we almost take Akil's consistency. That's the main thing. Like you almost, Akil is as close to, I'm not, obviously he's not Sunil Narayan and he's not Badri, but what I mean is we know that Akil's not getting licks. And that's, do you know how good that is to have a bowler where you're like, no matter what happens, this guy basically is probably going to go under 8. On a good day, he's going under 7. He's probably going to get us a couple of wickets. There was a guy who messaged us, I can't remember who, Santoki, and said, well, if Akil's going so well in white ball cricket, the guy, I mean, Akil plays red ball cricket for Trinidad, but, and I know what you're going to say, Santoki, but I want you to answer it for the people on the live and listening later on the podcast as well. Could you ever see the selectors saying, you know what, Akil, come through to the test side?
I could see that, but for that to happen, obviously, as a left armer, he's obviously got Jamel Warrican and Veerasamy Permaul ahead of him. But they're specialist spinners. We've seen with West Indies selectors, they like to have all-rounders who can spin as that position. So if he went back and played the later half of the first-class season, put together runs, I could see them picking him as a sort of all-rounder who can spin. But going back to your point, Masha, what you said earlier, yeah, you're right. A sign of Akil Hussain's sort of progress in the side is that we take it for granted that he's going to perform now, that we just expect him to have good economy and take wickets because he's been able to do that consistency since the World Cup. And that's something which has been missing from the West Indian side, having that spinner since we've lost Narayan and Badji. So for me, the fact that he's sort of stood out as our premier spinner and sort of solved that equation is a massive positive, not just from this tour, but consistently over the last 3 months. He's probably been, his emergence as our premier spinner has probably been the highlight of the T20 side in the past 6 months.
Most definitely. And a couple of people have put in the chat, so I've scrolled past now, but a couple of people said, don't forget Fabian. Yes, it's good to see Fabian Allen back. And he was very good in the final match, actually, in tandem with Akil, bowled some really good overs. So yes, it's good to see Fabian back, but I think Fabian only played 3 matches, so I'm not putting it as an out there positive, but it's definitely good because he's a triple threat. So it's definitely good to see Fabian Allen back. We want to do the player ratings, people, so we're going to very quickly run through the last section before we get into the player ratings. Aaron, before the series, you said you were looking for certain you wanted certain takeaways from this series for England. Mm-hmm. Have your... Oh, thank you, Mr. Lover. I should chuck up there. Wasn't Mr. Lover here saying... Yes, sorry, Aaron, before I come to you, we've got to recognise the Super Chat people. Yes, Holder was ranked 26th and Hussain was ranked 33rd before this series. They most likely will go up after this particular series. Yeah, I don't know how much sway, Mr. Lover, we should pay by ICC rankings. It all seems to relate to just whatever series is on at any moment in time. So I don't know, but most definitely it shows you how when people are saying, oh, we were playing an England B team, whatever, like if you go off by rankings, then technically England's B team is better than our A team if you're going off by rankings and so on and so forth. But anyways, Aaron, back to you. Were the questions you had before the series answered?
No. Okay. Categorically no. And that's what I'm most disappointed about, because I mentioned in the preview show, this was an ideal learning experience for England. And I've said this a lot in the last year or so, and it feels like another wasted opportunity. It feels like another wasted opportunity. David Payne being in the squad for the second time in 6 months, didn't even get a look in. You know, he's one of the best death bowlers in the country. And yet again, for some reason, the only man in that England squad who did not get a chance. I'm really disappointed by that. I'm disappointed that we saw Harry Brook once, because again, with Sam Billings, you could see he looked jaded in this series. He did not look at his energetic best. And as I said, that's completely understandable because of the journey he'd taken to the Caribbean. I don't get why he wasn't given a chance. I still couldn't understand some of the selections, the lack of selecting Benny Howell, the lack of selecting Matt Parkinson. Matt Parkinson has not played a game all winter, which I just don't like at all. And with the death bowling, I'm sure everyone's seen the stats from yesterday. They put this up actually on the TV broadcast.
Yeah.
England, in terms of the 4 member nations, so the 12 top countries in the world, England have got the worst economy rate from over 16 to 20 in world cricket right now among any full member nation. And we were talking about this in 2021. This is something that England needed to work upon heading into that tournament. We're now 2 series away. England have got India and South Africa in the home summer and Pakistan later on in the year. But I think that's coming after the World Cup. We do not have a lot of time to resolve these issues. And the whole point of this series was to give new bowlers a chance to really establish that position and take that as their spot. And I don't really think anyone aside from Reece Topley did that. And I still think with the likes of George Garton, he got off to a promising start, then went for a lot of runs, didn't play for the rest of the series.
Yeah, that was weird, by the way, Aaron. What was it? 1 match he played? Was it 1 or 2?
Played 1 match. He played one match, and this is what
Why would you take a guy to just play 1 match and Payne play 0? Why pick him to play 0?
Well, this is the thing I don't understand, and I wish England would look at this from a more long-term perspective, because not only have we got the World Cup in Australia this year, I mentioned this again on the preview show, we're 2 years away from a T20 World Cup in the Caribbean. Why didn't we look at the long term? And when it came to this series, we knew what the likes of Tamar Mills, Chris Jordan, we knew exactly what they're going to give you in the team. Okay, I mean, maybe with Mills, to be fair, he hasn't played loads compared to Jordan, but in particular in Jordan's case, he's played tons of T20 cricket. We know exactly what he's going to do. We know exactly what he provides for the team. England's all-time leading T20 wicket taker. Why not give a George Garton or a David Payne an opportunity to present themselves and put forward their case for selection? So I just didn't like that at all. And the thing with the death bowling, the numbers speak for themselves. The fact that since 2021, we've been going at 10.5 runs and over from over 16 to 20. Compare that to Australia, who are 9.5. I mean, even that's quite expensive. Compare that to New Zealand and India. Their death bowling is less than 9 runs and over. There's a massive disparity between England and the rest of the world right now. And unless we can resolve that, we're not going to win a tournament, because I know it's very cliche, but batsmen win your games, bowlers win your tournaments. You know, you need good death bowlers. It's such an integral part of T20 cricket, and England just have not mastered it. Now, we can have the most powerful, destructive, explosive batting lineup in the world. You can throw Livingston in there, you can throw in Jason Roy, Joss Butler, anyone. If you cannot defend, we almost gave away 74 runs in 5 overs in that second T20I. You're not going to win games of cricket. We can have the best batting lineup. You can be the number 1 ranked side. This needs to improve. So for me, personally speaking, in this series, again, I would just say there's arguably more questions now than there were before the series started. And you never want that as a cricket fan. So I don't know where England go with regards to the death bowling, because we've got 2 series. We've got home summer. Are they going to give David Payne a chance? Are they going to give George Garton more of a chance? Are they going to bring in someone new? You know, the likes of a Pat Brown, maybe, bring him back, although he hasn't really played a lot of cricket. You've got the likes of Benny Howell, if needs be. I just don't know where England go from here in that department. I'm not sure there's enough time to rectify that fully heading into Australia later this year.
So
well, there's
we sent Aaron into depression here, boy.
I was going to say there's a famous ancient proverb used for centuries now that West Indians win you titles. So I'm sure your selectors are banking on Jofra Archer returning at some point this year to kind of take you to glory in Australia.
It's funny you mentioned that, Santoki. I was having a chat with my friend yesterday. I also call upon the most ancient of proverbs. Okay, Warwickshire players win your games. Sorry, non-Warwickshire players win your games. Warwickshire players win your series. There's only one Warwickshire player on display in this series, and he's playing for the West Indies. It was Carl Mayers. So that proverb came true. The stars aligned again. That old adage came to the forefront. So just something for England to be aware of. Maybe put in a splash of Chris Wokes or Jake Lintop. Again, someone who has Caribbean experience for the Barbados Royals. Someone who goes at less than 7 runs and over in T20 cricket. Give them a chance. That's all I'm saying.
Remember as well, Aaron, that when Mayers Carl came on the podcast, he says he hopes Warwickshire bring him back again if he's got time in his schedule. So get speaking to your people, because as far as Carl's concerned, he wants another go with the Bears again.
Get it on the phone.
But Santoki, if England have their problems, actually, before I get into it, contact is right, of course. West Indies women won in a super over today. Deandra Dottin and Hayley Matthews, what is it, 26 in between them in the super over. Big up the West Indies women each and every time. But Santoki, yes, we won 3-2, but that's not with. We still have some issues, Santoki. Everyone has to remember that as great as this win was, there were some players missing for us as well. Evan Lewis, Shimron Hetmeyer, who else am I missing? Obed McCoy. Whether people like it or not, Dre Russ hasn't retired. So Dre Russ, I won't say Narayan because we can assume he's just not playing ever again. Yeah. So let's just say those four. So that's Lewis, Hetmeyer, Dre Russ, and McCoy. Arguably, if they're fit, arguably all four walk into the team. I'm not saying who four, but arguably all four walk into the team. Now, as much as we won 3-2, Santoki, I identified three things that I think if you're being constructive, you would argue still haven't been solved. Right?
Go on then.
If Evan Lewis isn't around, do we have two good openers? I would argue that's probably still not solved necessarily. Because you want a situation where you don't need to have Evan Lewis in the team. Whereas at the end of this series, all of us were basically like, well, Evan walks back into this team in a heartbeat, if you see what I mean. There's no pressure on Evan Lewis to lose his place. The middle overs. Okay, I think there was maybe, which match was it? Probably the one when Rovman and Nicholas Puran put together the partnership. Other than whichever match that was, I think match 3. Other than that match, arguably, the middle overs were still a problem. When England had Rashid on, we basically had to just play him out because we didn't know what to do. Even Liam Livingstone in that last game was making us look like we couldn't play any kind of like when I'm not saying Liam Livingstone isn't a good bowler, but we were making him look like it was peak Murali out there when Liam Livingstone had the ball. And then, of course, Moeen as well. The middle over Santoki haven't been solved. I still think we get tied down too easily. And if it's me, Santoki, Hetmeyer walks back in because, okay, he's got to get his head sorted. He's got to get his game sorted. He's got to get his fitness sorted. But the one thing you can't say about Shimron is busy when he's at the wicket. He is busy. He's looking to rotate strike. Then he gets out to a crazy shot. But the point is Shimron's always looking to get moving with the innings. So I don't think we came out of this series not being able to ignore Shimron if he's fit, if you see what I mean. And then the last one, we mentioned it earlier on, we're still, if Obed McCoy isn't around and obviously DJ Bravo's now retired, we still have a death bowling. Similar to what Aaron said about England, like that stat that Aaron pulled out about England, about them having 10 point whatever. When it came on the screen, Santoki, we were up in 5th place, right? And I was like, West Indies up in 5th place. And then I remembered that's because of Bravo. but now Bravo's gone, we will have a definitive, and arguably Russell as well, actually, because Russell's used to bowling at the death. So arguably we will have against good sides. I think our death bowling will come unstuck. Santoki, what do you reckon about those three?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think all three are valid. I think in the 4th and 5th T20, we saw exactly what you're talking about. In terms of opener, Brandon King was 26 of 27 in the 4th T20, and then yesterday he was 34 of 30. I tweeted out yesterday, no international opener should be 34 runs after wasting 30 balls. So for me, Brandon King is more suited to ODI, Test cricket, which was always known. And as you said, Mash, it hasn't solved. If Evan Lewis was injured for the World Cup, we wouldn't be confident in Brandon King opening in the World Cup. So that's questions. Again, the 4th and 5th T20, we saw issues with the middle overs in terms of we got off to a fast start thanks to Mayers. And then after that, there was sort of confusion over what we do. We weren't rotating strike. We weren't hitting boundaries. I think both of the 4th and the 5th game, we went with 5-6 overs without hitting a single boundary. So that's a massive issue. But as you said, Hetmeyer is a solution. We need to get Hetmeyer back. And finally, the death bowling, that's been an issue since it was kind of highlighted in the World Cup. We definitely need Obed McCoy back, and we need to know whether Jaden Seals, whether there's plans for him to integrate him into this T20 side ahead of the World Cup, or if they're just basically going to plan for him to be a red ball cricketer this year, and then after the World Cup, slowly put him into T20s, because you'd imagine him not playing in this tour, him not playing in the India tour, it's very unlikely that they're grooming him to go to the World Cup. I think they're focusing on him being a red ball specialist for now in terms of his development, but he would be a solution. So if you take out Jaden Seals, as you said, we're relying on Obed McCoy coming back, Dre Ross coming back. It's essentially, as it stands, this tour did nothing to sort of make us feel any more closer to whether we do have sort of players who can kind of take wickets in the death. From what we've seen from Shepherd, Smith, Odie and Smith, they all feel like works in progress, whereas we've got World Cup in 6-7 months. We need to have finished products at the moment.
Just bring up this point from Talia. Listen, I know people don't want Bravo around. To me, Bravo is just holding a spot until Hetmeyer comes back. So that's why I'm not too bothered about Bravo being there. He's not going to be a long-term solution. Hetmeyer's not here, so you need a left-handed batsman who you feel that you can rely on. I don't think Bravo is as big a problem as people are making him out to be. He played he batted twice in the whole series. Like, if he's in the squad, he's in the squad. I really don't think it's worth getting angry about Bravo's presence in the long term. So yeah, those are 3 issues. We've gone much longer than we thought we would do, as is always the way. So there's only one way to end this, which is the player ratings. We said before we started the recording, we said to Aaron that unlike previous episodes where we just do a West Indies player rating, on the basis that we've got an England fan on, we will also do England player ratings. So where are we? Let's start. Should we start with England or West Indies?
Let's go with England.
Okay, let's start with England. So everyone who's in the chat, you can get involved as well. Let us start with England. Right, who are they open? Okay, right. So Jason Roy played all 5 matches, highest score of 52, strike rate 130, an average of 26. I don't know if we let Aaron go last, or if I think we should go first and Aaron go last, so he can get upset when we give the scores. Jason Roy. I mean, Jason Roy is supposed to be one of the best batsmen in the world in T20s. To me, that's underwhelming for Jason Roy. 150. Not that if you're an opener, it's 150. What was his strike rate? 130 for Jason Roy. It's a 4.
No, I was going to say 7.
7?
I was going to say 7.
Listen, I'm saying 4 just based on who Jason Roy is. But I can see from Aaron's face that he's not impressed with my 4.
It's not that much. If that's the level, Jason Roy was England's leading run scorer. So I dread to think what everyone else is going to get.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast player ratings. Okay, 5. I'll say 5 then.
No, you can't change, bro. You start with a 4.
I'm stuck with 4. No,
say it with chest, Mashel. Say it with chest.
4.
This is a gamble because basically no other batsman can get higher than 4 now from Mashel.
It only gets worse from here. Goodness me, I'll give him he was England's leading run scorer in the series. But I kind of get Mashel's point about it is Jason Roy.
Yeah.
So because it's J Roy, I'll give him a 6. I expect more from him, but he didn't have a bad series, to be honest. Just a little bit, it wasn't quite where we expect J Roy to be.
Okay, so maybe I've started too low. Tom Banton, he also played all 5 matches, which obviously Aaron has already said, why did that happen when Phil Salt was in the hatch? Banton, he got a 73. In fact, he got the highest score out of any England player in any of the matches. Strike rate 156, average 24. So to me, that's strike rate of 156. That's a 6.
Well, hold on.
So there's no rules out here. That's a 6, man. That's a 6.
I'll give it. You know what? Yeah, I'll give it a 7 if I give away a 7 because the strike rate is good. So yeah, I'll give it a 7.
I'll give Banton a 6 purely because that 73 was excellent. Like he did give England a chance. Sorry, I just can't get over Mashel's ratings.
Who's number 3? Is it Vince?
Yeah, Vince. Yeah, James
Vince.
Vince.
So Vince also played all 5 matches. Highest score of 55. Average 25, strike rate 143. Now, again, I don't get James Vince because James Vince, in this series, he encapsulated everything that is James Vince. Looks super classy, looks like he's about to do a madness, then just gets himself out to something ridiculous. Now, based on what Aaron was saying, so James Vince was England's 2nd highest run scorer in the series. It's a 5. It's a 5.
Yeah, I was going to say 5 as well.
I think for the first time we're all in agreement, guys. Purely because James Vince, we expect more from him. You know, we've seen so much talent at Hampshire, and I just feel like at times in this series, that last T20I was brilliant from James Vince. I think he did begin to get some rhythm, some confidence back. But was it the first T20I? When he scored back-to-back boundaries and then just gifted his wicket away.
He slapped it to cover, I think, for just a nothing shot. That kind of was James Vince in a nutshell for me.
That happened a bit too much in this series, so I'd give him a 5.
I think Moeen was at 4, right? So Moeen, well, no, Morgan was, but anyway, Moeen played all 5. Highest score of 63, average 22, strike rate 146. But also remember Moeen bowled. He took 5 wickets at an average of 19.
Can we talk about that shot mash as well?
Yeah, we're going to, and the economy of 7.15. So it only really came off once for Moeen, and the one innings that it did come off, that was Moeen at his best in essence. That was a kind of Moeen's innings was one of those ones where even if you're the opposition fan, you're like, you know what? Nah, I got to applaud this one. That's what Moeen's innings was like. Given what he did with the ball as well, surely it's got to be a 7 minimum.
Yeah, I was going to say 7.
I would up it slightly to 7.5, purely because of that cover drive where he just did to the full toss. That shot is one of the best I've seen in recent T20 cricket. So that gives him the extra 0.5, but didn't have a bad series at all. It's just a case of it didn't really have much backing, I suppose, in this series. I think that's what it came down to.
Billings.
We might have to zip through the scores, because it's taken us 10 minutes to get through like 3 players, and we still got about 20 more players.
Oh yeah, we haven't even done West Indies. Billings, 4 matches. Where are we? Top score 41, strike rate 142, wicket keeping. I didn't think it was up to much, but then he flew from Australia, and was told to just immediately play. Billings, it's a 4.
Yeah, I was going to say 3.
Just because I'm nice and I like Sam Billings, I will give him a 4, purely because he did have that mammoth journey. I don't think he should have played that many. I think that was a bit, I don't know, naive from England to expect that from him.
Phil Salt, 3 matches, highest score 57, strike rate 193. The average is 20, but I think I'm more looking at the strike rate there. I think he was batting way too low in the circumstances and the context. I think Phil Salt has to get 7.5.
It's a 0 from me because he's betrayed the West Indies by playing for England.
No, he hasn't. Hang on. Let's clear this up. He may have grown up in Barbados.
His formative years.
He was born in Bodelwyddan in Wales, right? Went to school in Chester. That's England. So he might have grown up in and around the Caribbean. He's an England boy now.
He went to the Caribbean as a boy and he left as a man that was ready to play international cricket.
I would argue the opposite about Jacob Bethel. He left the Caribbean as a boy and has turned into one of the greatest prospects in world cricket here in Warwickshire. But with regards to Phil Salt, I'm going to give him an 8.5, and I'll tell you why. He was batting out of position. That 57 from 24 was outrageous. I think he was mistreated a bit in this series, so 8.5. Love Phil Salt.
Ollie Morgan only played 2 matches, had an injury, scored 30 runs, strike rate 73. Bit of an inconsequential series for him. 3?
Yeah, 3. I think it's harsh. I think anyone who played 1 or 2 games, it's always going to be harsh to kind of judge them. But yeah, I'll give him a 3.
I'll just put this as the barometer. So for the rest of the people who've only played 1 or 2 games, I'll just give a standard 5. I don't think you can really.
Yeah.
You can't really judge.
Yeah, I get that.
Maybe we just only rate the players who played 3 or more.
Yeah, okay, good point, actually. Liam Livingstone, I've got a point here. So Liam Livingstone, 3 matches, 33 runs, strike rate 118, averaged 11 with the ball, I should say, 4 wickets at 19, economy 9.62. I don't think Liam Livingstone should. You see that game, Santoki? Was it the 3rd game? He looked like, because his belly was running, right? And he even said in the interview that his belly was hurting him. England sent him out to play anyway. So I actually don't think Liam Livingstone was match fit. I'm giving him a 3.
Yeah, I was going to give him a 4 purely for his performance with the ball, but he's selected as an electric batsman. He didn't really do any of that in the series. So, as you said, he wasn't match fit, but I still have to give him a rating. So 4.
I'm going to give him a 5 purely for bravery and courage for going out there. You know, if you're ill, that takes some next level fortitude. So disappointing series for Livy, but it's just one of those. We go on into the summer. Hopefully, can find some form.
Adil Rashid, 5 matches, the bat, nothing to talk about with the ball, 7 wickets, the best economy out of all the teams, 5.75, 7 wickets at 16. I mean, with the ball, he's Adil Rashid 9.
I'm going to give him an 8. I think he said in a post-match interview he felt he could have played better. So I'm holding him to those high standards, giving him an 8.
Oh, straight 9. Love Adil Rashid.
Yeah, that's a fairly easy one. Mahmood, 3 matches.
Oh.
No wickets. Economy 11, 0.
Yeah, it's got to be a 0 for me. He almost fumbled the match to Akil Hussain there. So, yeah, I think his job as a death bowler, he badly failed to 0.
Do I have to? Sakeeb's from Birmingham. I can't do this to a fellow West Midlander. I'm going to have to
we talk about island bias. We got county bias here, man. You got to be fair.
Yeah, I'm going to have to give him a 1. Unfortunately, just had a really bad series. But then again, I do put down that a little bit to mismanagement in those last couple of T20Is. You know, it clearly lost confidence from that second game. I don't feel like we backed him. I feel like if Morgan was maybe the captain, could have been different. But yeah, just a 1. Unfortunate because he's a really good bowler, but things happen.
Topley. Surprisingly,
can I start here, Mash, with this one?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I'm going to just do the stats. Surprisingly, actually, he only took 3 wickets. I thought he took more than that, but his economy was 7. Go on, Aaron.
I want to give him an 8. I think he bowled really well. I know the wickets column doesn't necessarily reflect that, but you know, in a series where England were under the cosh at times, we were under the pump from the West Indies, in particular in the death overs, I think he held his own. And as I said, I think he's really made a case now for selection for that World Cup and for the summer series as well. So solid 8 for Reece Topley. Really, really impressed.
I'm saying 7 just because the wickets don't reflect it, but I actually thought he bowled very, very well throughout the series. So I'm going to say 7, Santoki.
Yeah, I'll give him an 8. I think he was a standout bowler for England, and also the run out he done as well. Good fielding.
Ooh, yeah.
That was a good run out. Also, we didn't mention Jason Roy's fielding at the boundary in the last T20. That was a good. It was a good fielding performance from England for this series. But yeah, top 8.
I realised I missed out Chris Jordan. So with the bat, 62 runs, strike rate 129, average 21. With the ball, 1 wicket, economy 10.4. Chris Jordan might be done out here, you know. This he might be finished for England, you know. And also because obviously, you know, I would say Chris Jordan 2.
Yeah, I'll give him a 2.
I'd also give him a 2, and I take no pleasure in that whatsoever. But his game has just stagnated massively. I've been saying this since the start of 2021. He's not changed his game. I thought we'd seen a little bit of an improvement in the 4th one because he started going back to the Yorker. And then in that final game again, there's something about his game. I think opposition batting lineups can read his change of pace. I think there must be something noticeable because teams, you can see, batsmen are hanging in the crease against Jordan. They're always preempting the slow ball and the off-cutter. I think he's gone a little bit too predictable. I think he's gone the same way as Tom Curran. And they haven't adapted their games. But the problem for England at the moment, he is the all-time leading wicket taker. No one has really stepped up to the mark, even Smart Mills. Didn't have a great series this one. We didn't see enough of George Garton. We didn't see David Payne at all. Mark Wood has been expensive in the past. Chris Wokes has been expensive in the past. I think at the moment it's a case of need and not want with Jordan, which is a shame because he's been an excellent servant for English cricket.
Last player is Mills, 1 wicket, economy 11. Similar to what I said with Jason Roy, based on who Tymel Mills is, that's just not good enough. 0.
Yeah, I'll give him a 1.
I'll give him the same as Jordan. That's a 2 for me. I expect more from Tamal. He's a much better bowler than that.
So that's the first time ever we've done player ratings for an opposition side. All the West Indians who are still in the chat, now is your time for real level excitement as we actually rate players based on a series win and not a defeat when the cuss out is at its highest. Santoki, let's get.
You know what? Are we giving explanations, or should we just give the scores and let the people cuss out?
Yeah, no explanation. Just
no explanation. Just what we
the score and deal with it. Right, Brandon King played all 5 matches. Top score 52. Strike rate 103. 6.
I'll give him a 5.
I'd also give him a 5 for the strike rate.
Yeah, it's poor, you know. I should have said 5.
You gave Jason Roy a 4 for a 130 strike rate and England's highest scorer.
Yeah.
That's all.
It's a weird one because Hope played 3 matches. So Hope, 3 matches, top score of 20, average of 8, strike rate 65, 0.
I'll give him a 1 for effort.
Nick Hill is never going to talk to you two ever again after those ratings. I'll give him. I'm a bit more lenient. I'll just give him a 2. I couldn't give someone a 1. I just can't. So I'll just give him a 2. I'll give him a 2. I'll be the kind one. I'll be the good cop.
Even though we said we were only rating players if they played 3 matches, obviously Hope got dropped and Mayers came in for 2. And because of how well Mayers did, I feel like we have to rate him, Santoki. So Mayers 2 matches, top score 40, strike rate 169, average 36. I'm giving him an 8.
Yeah, I'll give him a 9 for that strike rate and the way he had to come in for the last 2 games.
I'd give him an 8. Really impressed.
Puram. All 5 matches, top score 70, average 41, strike rate 122. 6.5.
I'll give him a 7 because he was our top scorer with the runs. It's just the strike rate wasn't what you'd hope from him.
Exact same logic as Santoki. I'd give him a 7. I think he had a good series, but again, with the strike rate, with someone of Puran's caliber and ilk, we do expect a little bit more. So yeah. I'll just give him a 7.
Puran, who came after Puran? We might as well do it. Bravo, 4 matches. batted twice, average 26, strike rate 93. I mean, he batted twice. I don't know. It's 2.
Yeah, I was going to give him a 3 because he didn't really get a chance to bat, really. So, what else? What more could he have done?
Yeah, I mean, I did say earlier a standard 5, probably because he did have a couple of chances. I'd maybe reduce it to 4, but again, I don't think you can really rate him off of that. And let's not forget as well, his batting position wasn't exactly nailed on either. It was dynamic, wasn't it, in this series?
Yeah, I'm not even sure we should have been rating him because he never even he played 1 innings in an actual position.
Exactly.
So Rodman Powell, 3 matches. Average 74, strike rate 193, top score 107, 10.
Yeah, give him a 10.
Triple it, 10. All 3 of us giving him 10. Beautiful. Great series.
Pollard, 5 matches, 4 innings, average 69, strike rate 141, top score 41, not out. With the ball, 4 wickets, best economy actually. His economy was 7, which was the best out of any West Indian bowler. 4 wickets and an average of 28. People are going to think I'm biased out here, but any other player doing that, you'd give them 8.
Yeah, I was going to say 8. Exactly for, like you said, the bowling, the batting, and his captaincy as well. It was a tough series for him.
I'm going to go a little bit higher. I'm going to go 8.5. The only reason why, England struggled to take the attack to Kieran Pollard in this series. I think he was a real difference maker. And we've already spoken about his leadership skills as well. I thought he led the team very well. So 8.5.
We didn't even talk about his captaincy. Yeah, good point. Well done for mentioning Aaron. Who's after Pollard? Let's just go with Holder. Holder, 5 matches with the bat. He only batted twice. Average 19, strike rate 123, top score 36, and obviously 15 wickets with the ball, average of 9, economy 7.78. Just based on what he did with the ball, 10.
Yeah, man of the series, so 10.
10. I think we all knew it was coming.
Shepherd, 5 matches, batted 3 times, top score 44, not out, strike rate 161, average of 61. However, with the ball, he took 6 wickets at 26, but an economy of 12. 6 at best.
I'll give him a 7, but that's probably with Guyanese inflation as well added to that.
I'm going to go in the middle then. I'm going to go 6.5. I think that economy rate does need to come down. I think his batting is coming along leaps and bounds. I think he's very, very impressive in that department. But in terms of his role in the team, you need his bowling, and you can't be going at 12 runs and over. So 6.5.
Who's that leave? Aldine Smith batted once, scored 7 runs. With the ball, 1 wicket, economy of 9. He only bowled 5 overs through the series. Aldine didn't really victimization, isn't it? But Aldine didn't really feature in the series. Really and truly, it's hard to rate him because he only really had an influence in the last game. For the first 3 overs of that last match, and for all the noise that was going on around him, I'm gonna give him a 5, maybe a 5.5, 6, maybe. I don't even know.
Yeah, I was going to say 5. 5's fair enough.
Yep, standard 5. Standard 5.
And who's that leave? Fabian. Didn't, again, like Aldine, top score 12 runs, only batted twice, only faced 12 balls. With the ball, 3 wickets, economy 8.55, 3 wickets at 25. It's kind of like a coming back from injury series for Fabian. This rating I'm giving him is more for being happy that he's back than what he actually did. So maybe a 6.
Yeah, I was going to say 5, to be fair.
Again, I'll play devil's advocate. I'll go 5.5. I'm just happy to see him back. And to be fair, did you see? I know it was a 6 in the end, but that fielding effort in the final T20, that's why we love Fabian Allen, three-dimensional cricketer. But for his standards, we expect more. He's a much better cricketer than those stats.
And the final person, as we come to the end of the show, thank you everyone who's stuck with it all. This has been an epic one. The final person is Akil Hussain. 44 not out. He batted once. 44 not out of 16. A strike rate of 275. 8 wickets at 15 at an economy of 7.05. 10.
Yeah, I'll give him a 10.
10 out of 10. I think we missed someone, lads. Sheldon Cottrell.
Oh, my God. Oh, God. Yeah, you're right. So 10 for Akil. So that leaves us with Sheldon to actually end it. Didn't bat at all with the ball. 4 wickets at 34, which looks worse on paper, but economy 7.55. I'm giving this rating for him looking like he's coming back to his best slowly but surely, so a 7.
Yeah, I'll give him a 6.
I'll agree with Santoki. I'll give him a 6. I think he bowled well in the power play, but again, I suppose it's like with any of these. You want to see them do better. So 6 for me, for Sheldon Cottrell.
Lovely. Ladies and gents, that has been an epic show. When we spoke before we pressed record, we said, this will go for 45 minutes. Now look. So thank you everyone who's been with us. Thank you everyone who's been in the chat, anyone who's given some comments. Thank you, of course, to Aaron for coming on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast as ever. Thank you to Santoki. I guess thank you to myself. You definitely can't keep a good man down, everybody. We've been the Caribbean Cricket Podcast in partnership with the County Cricket Podcast and, of course, The Cricketer. Look out for more content coming your way. Enjoy the rest of your night, or if you're listening to this at a much later date. And we hope to see you soon. Thank you and good night. At that point, I'm supposed to play the outro, everyone, but I got so involved, I forgot to do it properly. So thank you and good night.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seem coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.